Chapter 33-34. Outside the barrier, Rimuru and Guy stood watching the ongoing battle with their jaws on the floor. At the beginning of the fight, Velzard was the one dominating the fight. Her powers coupled with her experience as the second oldest dragon seed was proving difficult for Veldora to handle. But the tables turned abruptly. Veldora began acclimating to Velzard's techniques, countering them while counter-attacking. He began to overwhelm Velzard. It got to the point that Velzard took things seriously, shifting into her adult form. This shocked the onlookers. Oi oi Rimuru, what in the world are we watching? When did Veldora become so strong? Guy asked, turning to Rimuru. I don't know. I knew Veldora grew stronger, but I didn't think he could push Velzard this far. Rimuru said, also as stupefied as Guy. Hey, I always knew Veldora was strong, but to match Velzard. That's a level few can claim, Guy remarked, his eyes gleaming with excitement. He's not just a wild dragon anymore, he's refined his power. Impressive. Rimuru, while more familiar with Veldora's capabilities, couldn't help but feel proud of his dragon companion. Veldora's always been strong, but to hold his own against Velzard. It's insane, Rimuru mused. He's come so far, hasn't he? Both figures stood in awe, recognizing that Veldora, the storm dragon, was no longer a force to be underestimated even among the strongest of true dragons. I remember hearing from Veldanava that Velzard always one-shot the kid, now the situation is different. Guy added, a hint of pride in his voice, despite his usual teasing tone towards Veldora. The battle raged on as Veldora and Velzard clashed, their draconic auras colliding with enough force to shake the very heavens. Each strike sent shockwaves through the battlefield, splitting the sky and shaking the ground beneath them. The sheer magnitude of their power was enough to cause even the most seasoned warriors to tremble, but Guy and Rimuru stood firm, their gazes locked on the fierce struggle. Rimuru nodded, his eyes flickering between the two combatants. Yeah, Veldora's actually thinking now, controlling his energy, and fighting tactically. He's always been wild and reckless, but now he's learned to focus, Rimuru commented, his admiration growing. It's not just brute force anymore. He's pushing himself beyond his limits. As the battle continued, Velzard's ice magic clashed with Veldora's storm-infused attacks, creating a magnificent display of energy that rippled through the sky. Veldora's aura flared, electricity crackling around him as his dragonic rage surged. Yet, instead of losing control, he channeled that power, striking with precision and force that left even Velzard momentarily taken aback. Displaying his martial prowess, Veldora began to overwhelm Velzard in hand-to-hand combat. Seamlessly incorporating magic with his fighting style, Velzard couldn't keep up with the growing Veldora. His growth rate far outpaced hers. He effortlessly dodged and parried all her attacks. Suddenly the situation of the battlefield changed. Veldora, in an attempt to deliver an earth-shattering blows, was blocked by a barrier of ice. Rimuru, who saw it happen, instantly felt the power of an ultimate skill from such a technique. Less than correct, the effects of an ultimate skill has been confirmed. Greater than. To push Velzard so far as to use her ultimate skill, I'm speechless. Veldora, good job. Rimuru mused. Ha 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 ha, he has pushed Velzard to use her ultimate skill. Veldora has no chance of winning now. Guy said. Rimuru, concerned for Veldora after hearing Guy's words, what are you going to do now, Veldora? Veldora didn't give up. He unleashed punch after punch, but Velzard's defense didn't budge. Guy smirked, confident of his partner's victory, only for his smile to falter when Veldora landed a punch that cracked Velzard's snow crystal. Velzard, sensing something was off, backed away. Guy and Rimuru sensed it as well. Rimuru, having figured out what happened based on the change in Veldora's aura, laughed out loudly. Ha 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 ha, he finally obtained an ultimate skill. Very good. Veldora never ceases to amaze me. Guy was surprised, but his confidence in Velzard didn't shake. Veldora's power is incomparable to what it was before, yes, but he still won't be able to beat Velzard. After all, she's had time to perfect her skill while Veldora just obtained his. Don't underestimate Veldora's potential. He's a genius, capable of learning extremely fast in the heat of battle, just like we primordial demons. Rimuru cautioned. Oh, if you're praising him like this, then he sure is an interesting guy. Guy added. All of a sudden the space around Veldora and Velzard twisted, bending to an invisible force. This was as a result of the clash between Eternal World and Chaos World. What sort of power is this? Rimuru began to analyze this phenomenon, trying to understand. Less than it appears to be the result of a clash between skills that are able to imbue the will of their users within a defined space, a world system skill. Greater than. For real, Veldora is now in possession of a world system skill. The dude just became even more overpowered. Rimuru contemplated the power of such an absurd skill. I wish I could copy their skills. Unfortunately, wisdom is a unique skill, incapable of copying ultimate skills. Less than. Greater than. I felt like wisdom had something to say to me, but I must be imagining things. The space around the true dragons went back to normal, with no one gaining the upper hand. Fascinating. With the way things are, there is only one way for Velzard to defeat Veldora. Guy commented after witnessing the spectacle. Before Rimuru could ask what he was referring to, the world stopped. Losing all its colors as everything and everyone in the world came to a halt, motionless. Time stop, an overpowered ability that stops the flow of time entirely for a short duration. It costs an immense amount of energy to keep active but offers nigh absolute victory against those who cannot move while it's active. During the duration of a time stop, the flow of time is completely frozen for all worlds, resulting in a place where the laws of physics don't apply, called the suspended world. Within frozen time, matter and energy of any kind cannot move and things such as nuclear forces do not exist, annulling physical durability. Only beings who can think with their heart cores and are able to manipulate information particles, infants, are able to perceive the stopped world, and only those who have managed to gain the ability to transfer their entire existence in information form between sets of information particles referred to as digital natures are able to move in the stopped world. Everyone present remained frozen in time except Guy and Velzard. Guy, standing next to Rimuru, walked up to him. Looking at him with a proud smile on his face, "This is the advantage I have over you, Rimuru. Unless you can move in the suspended world, you won't be able to beat me from now on." Rimuru on the other was undergoing an evolution, quickly adapting to the stopped time. Less than notice. Transcendent One is reacting. Greater than. Velzard watched as everyone except Guy froze. She stared at Veldora happily. He's gotten better, it's to the point where even I am finding it difficult to believe that he was once the little Veldora that I always lightly disciplined from time to time. His way of fighting has changed drastically. Instead of relying on brute force, his magical reserves an output. He now utilizes proper techniques along with his immense power. Even I had trouble dealing with the new him. Kahahehe, to say I'm impressed is an understatement. He could give Velgrind a run for her money, maybe even defeat her if he's serious enough. She slowly inched towards him. It's a shame he hasn't reached the point to be able to move in the suspended world. Velzard lamented. She decided to end things with a single strike, but as she prepared herself to do so, she noticed a reaction coming from Veldora. Surprised, Velzard stopped in her tracks. Veldora, defying all odds, began to move in the suspended world. Velzard and Guy were shocked. Cuckoo, that kid actually managed to move. I'm impressed once again, Guy commented as he watched the event unfold. Veldora, finally gaining his senses, looked around for a second before turning to his sister. I see, so this is the suspended world you always talked about before, he said as he observed his surroundings once again. He was dumbfounded seeing everything motionless. Oi, even Rimuru is motionless. Damn, I guess there's something even the mighty Primordial can't do. At least now I can brag to him about being able to move during time stop while he can't. Kuhahahahaha. He bellowed. Velzard answering Veldora's question, it is. I'm incredibly proud of you for being able to move in it. That would now make you my equal. She whispered the last part. Now that you can move, there is no need to keep time still since it drains a lot of energy. Velzard lifted the time stop. Shall we resume, sister? Veldora asked, ready for another round. I'll be glad to. Velzard renewed her resolve, prepared to counter all of Veldora's attacks. This time she transformed into her dragon form. Veldora followed suit, hyped as always. He unleashed a barrage of black lightning bolts, each one capable of leveling entire mountains, aimed directly at his sister. Velzard remained unfazed. With a casual swipe of her tail, she summoned a massive ice barrier. The bolts of lightning collided with the barrier, creating a thunderous explosion that shook the heavens. Ice and lightning clashed, but Velzard's barrier held firm. HMPH, impressive, Veldora growled, narrowing his eyes. He acknowledged how Velzard was able to fight effortlessly in her dragon form. While he was training, he realized that while fighting in his dragon form and human form, the power utilization was different. The method of circulating energy in dragon form was different to the method of circulating energy in human form. Due to that fact, a different fighting style is to be utilized. With the help of manga and the guidance of Veldanava, Veldora was able to perfect his magic circulation in dragon form. Which was why he wasn't fazed by Velzard's display of power and control. He roared once more, and the skies darkened even further as he summoned the full power of his storm. Stormblast, a cataclysmic cyclone, erupted from the sky, its winds swirling with destructive energy. The vortex of the storm descended upon Velzard, threatening to tear her apart. But Velzard, calm as ever, responded with her own devastating power. With a flick of her claws, she invoked eternal glacial freeze. A massive wave of ice surged upward from her body, not merely freezing the air but crystallizing even the winds within Veldora's storm. The cyclone slowed, then froze entirely, suspended in midair as if time itself had stopped. Veldora growled in frustration, but his eyes gleamed with excitement. This was exactly the challenge he had wanted. His sister's cold was absolute, but he had no intention of backing down. With a roar, he shattered the frozen storm with sheer force, the black lightning within it erupting outward in a spectacular display of destruction. "Not bad, sister," Veldora shouted, charging forward again. This time, he unleashed Tempest Cannon, a concentrated beam of pure storm energy that tore through the sky, enhanced by his ultimate skill aimed directly at Velzard. Velzard's eyes glowed with icy light as she countered with her own ultimate attack, White Nova. A massive sphere of blinding cold erupted from her body, its freezing light consuming everything in its path. The two attacks met in the air with a cataclysmic explosion, sending shockwaves rippling across the world. The sheer power of their clash shattered mountains far below and split the clouds in the sky. The force of the impact sent both dragons reeling, though neither showed signs of retreat. Veldora grinned, his fangs gleaming. "I've got the strength to back up my big talk now, sister, even your ultimate power can't faze me." Dash 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 dash. Rimuru's pav. The moment I heard Guy say something about Velzard's only method of beating Veldora, I felt a strange sensation wash over me. My perception speed seemed to be useless as I stared at Guy, who was suddenly standing in front of me, and the true dragons were still battling it out, but in their dragon forms. I didn't even notice when Guy moved and when the true dragons transformed. What in the world happened? My perception, which had been stretched by a million times, didn't perceive their movements. Clearly this wasn't a hyperspeed move, the air around Guy didn't seem to be vibrating. Less than notice. Unknown. Analysis and assessment failed. Greater than. Really, it's rare for wisdom to say it doesn't know something, whether through prediction or calculation. It'd always provide me with some kind of information. If it has nothing to offer, then what just happened was really beyond understanding. In other words, something I couldn't handle. Guy turned around, looking at me with a menacing smile. I guess that's why he was sure that he would win during our next spar. Less than notice. Transcendent One seems to have stopped midway during your adaptation. Greater than. Something definitely happened for Transcendent One to have activated. Do you know what we were adapting to? Less than analysis of unique skill. Transcendent One has showed that the adaptation was focused on temporal manipulation. Greater than. Time manipulation. Could it be what I'm thinking? No matter how I think about it, such an ability felt like a cheat. Time stop. No wonder my sped up senses failed me. I said. Impressive. You deduced what happened immediately. You're such a spoilsport, Guy whined. Now that I think about it, if we're all letting time flow around us, there's no way we can observe something frozen in that dimension. Assuming that theory is correct, if someone can't access a world frozen in time, there's no way for them to interact with someone who is in that world. Right. Less than. This interpretation seems correct. Greater than. If these three can stop time, then they are untouchable. Unfortunately, I couldn't adapt in time before the time stop was lifted, tch. If you can't move when time is stopped, then I would win every single one of our spars. Cuckoo. You've been left in the dust, Rimuru. Guy boasted. Laugh all you want. It won't last forever. I sulked. Dash 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 dash. Third person POV. The battle continued to escalate. Veldora unleashed his full mastery over the storm magic that Rimuru had helped him refine. Black lightning surged from the sky, merging with hurricane force winds that tore through the fabric of reality itself. The entire battlefield became a raging storm, with Veldora at its center, unleashing everything he had. But Velzard was far from finished. As her brother raged, she moved with deadly grace, summoning forth the true power of her ultimate skill. With a gesture, she unleashed Frozen Abyss, a spell that plunges the world in an absolute cold. The ground below turned to crystal, and even the atmosphere around them began to freeze. Veldora charged at her with terrifying speed, his claws crackling with lightning. He slashed down, but Velzard gracefully dodged and retaliated with a blast of frozen energy that encased his arm in thick, unbreakable ice. With a grunt, Veldora shattered the ice, but Velzard was already on the offensive. She struck again, faster this time, her tail slamming into his side with the force of an avalanche. Veldora was sent spiraling back through the air, crashing through frozen mountains. But even then, Veldora grinned. He emerged from the ice, his draconic body unscathed but still crackling with power. "You always hit hard, sis," he growled, shaking off the debris. "But my durability has far surpassed what you may imagine. Right now I'm the most physically powerful true dragon, second only to Big Brother." With a final roar, Veldora activated his ultimate trump card, Chaotic Tempest. A transcendent storm erupted around him, bending space-time with its sheer force. The sky twisted, and the earth below buckled under the weight of the chaotic energy. Black lightning crackled through the air, and the wind screamed with destructive fury. The power Veldora was gathering was overwhelming, an attack that had the potential to end the world. Sensing the danger, "Oi oi, stop stop. You fool, are you trying to destroy the world? Our barriers are barely holding up. That's enough, you've proven yourself, am I right Velzard? Rimuru prevented a disaster from happening." Rimuru is right, Velzard agreed. "See, now let's go, I'm tired," Rimuru said, turning around to leave. Guy let out a low chuckle. "Maybe one of these days, I'll have to spar with him. Just to see how far he's really come." Rimuru smirked. "I'm sure he'd love that. But for now, let's just appreciate the fact that he can stand toe-to-toe with Velzard without causing too much collateral damage." He was happy that Veldora knew restraint. Who was he kidding? Veldora would have blown up the planet if he hadn't interfered. Veldora, still floating in the sky, turned toward his onlookers with fear. Rimuru, I think there's a problem," he meekly said. Rimuru turned his head. "What is it Veldora?" But what he saw sent shivers down his spine. The same went for Guy and Velzard. The attack Veldora had charged up hadn't been dispelled. In actuality Veldora couldn't dispel it. "Oi Veldora, careful with that thing, dispel it already," Guy yelled. "I can't," Veldora cried. Velzard, sensing that things weren't right, stealthily flew back, trying to avoid getting hit. "Veldora, listen to me and carefully dissipate the energy you've accumulated," Rimuru gently advised. "I can't, it's too much." Veldora was freaking out. "What the freak, old man? I thought you said you've gotten stronger. How can you not dissipate the energy you gathered yourself? Are you trying to kill everyone?" Rimuru's patience reached its limit. "What do we do? Maybe he should just fly up and fire it into space," Guy said. "There isn't enough time for that. Plus any movement from Veldora may unleash that power." Rimuru sighed, holding up his forehead. "Guy, leave this place with Velzard. Veldora, launch it at me," Rimuru said, preparing himself to deal with the consequences of his friend's action. "Are you crazy? How do you intend to?" Guy was interjected. "Just leave," Rimuru instructed. Guy listened and left the place. "Rimuru, are sure about this?" Veldora asked. Rimuru answered. "No." Veldora breathed a sigh of relief. Good eye, wait, what?" He finally realized what Rimuru said. Less than activating unique skills Transcendent 1 and Devourer. Greater than. Veldora, having no choice than to comply, fired the world-shattering attack, Chaotic Tempest, at Rimuru. The attack traveled, almost reaching the speed of light, as it made its way to Rimuru. Rimuru, having already braced himself. "Devour it all, Devourer." Enhanced by Transcendent 1, Devourer bared its fangs, consuming the every last bit of the attack. Chaotic Tempest threatened to overpower Rimuru's devouring ability, but he began to adapt and transcend the power of the attack. The earth trembled as two opposing forces were clashing. One threatening to obliterate everything, while the other threatened to consume everything. After several seconds of struggle, Devourer won, consuming every last bit of the attack. Even the magicules released by the true dragons during their battle was devoured greedily. Silence reigned throughout the area as Rimuru sat on the floor, assimilating the tremendous amount of energy he just consumed. Veldora flew down in his human form, walking up to Rimuru. "Ku ha 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 ha, I knew you could do it, Rimuru. I never once doubted you. Rimuru gave Veldora a skeptical look, before saying, I want to go home. Less than the phenomena has been adapted to. Analysis of chaotic tempest shall now begin. Greater than, at least I gained a lot from all this. Rimuru mused. Will you sure never cease to amaze me, Rimuru? Even I would have had trouble neutralizing that attack. Guy's voice said as he walked over to the two. Veldora, I thought you had become more disciplined, but it seems I was mistaken. I think you could use some disciplining. Velzard's cold voice reached everyone's ears. Veldora froze in fear. Memories of his days of being disciplined by his sisters crossed his mind. He began to sweat bullets. Rimuru says he's tired. It's been a long day, you know. We should probably leave. Grabbing Rimuru by the shoulder, Veldora flew, dozens of times faster than the speed of sound, away from the northern continent. It was unknown when he would ever visit the place again. Once upon a time in the vast and mystical Great Jura forest, Veldora, the fearsome yet somewhat lazy guardian deity, had decided to take life a little more seriously. Well, sort of. You see, after eons of aimlessly roaming the forest and terrorizing the occasional trespassers, he decided to build himself and Rimuru a home after Rimuru's persuasion. Veldora, Rimuru called out one morning, gazing over a particularly beautiful glade. Have you ever thought of building a proper home? You've been here for eons, yet you're living, like a wandering cloud. Veldora huffed, reading a particular manga that interested him. Nah, what need have I for walls and roofs? Right, Rimuru interrupted with a sly grin. Except you keep getting your manga rain-soaked every time there's a storm. Millennia ago, Rimuru decided to make hard copies of manga, when he noticed that Veldora had actually managed to access his deepest memories, thereby acquiring knowledge that the primordial is a reincarnated being. Veldora was fascinated when he found out and wouldn't stop questioning Rimuru about how it happened. Rimuru just briefly summarized how his reincarnation happened, leaving the rest to Veldora's imagination. Since then, Rimuru chose to keep Veldora out of his mind, deciding to make mangas using his otherworld knowledge to create books far ahead of what this world could make. Veldora, hearing Rimuru's words, froze. He did hate getting his mangas drenched. Well, he grumbled, it wouldn't hurt to have a place somewhere big and impressive, fit for a dragon. Rimuru chuckled. That's more like it. And so, Veldora, with his new ambition, called upon the intelligent races of the forest, the goblins, ogres, elves, beastmen, rabbit folk, kobolds, etc. They arrived in droves, eyes wide with awe, not just because of their godly dragon but also because of the mysterious, powerful figure standing beside him, Rimuru. The very air tense as the two's presence made it hard to stand. We're here to serve, Lord Veldora, the leader of the ogres said, trembling with excitement. The others nodded eagerly, overwhelmed by the rare opportunity to serve their deity. Veldora puffed out his chest. Of course you are. I have decided to build the greatest home in the history of this forest. A palace. A monument to my greatness. Rimuru sighed. Veldora, we don't really need a castle, a small home is more than enough. After all, we're gonna be the only ones living in it. He then turned to the onlookers. What Veldora means to say is, we need a house. Somewhat big, but not too big, sturdy, and functional. And I'll be helping with the design and construction. The goblins, ogres, and everyone else looked up at Rimuru in awe. Here was a being so powerful that he was a close friend of their god. The news spread like wildfire, and soon the tales began, how Rimuru, the wise and powerful being, was so close to Veldora that they were practically equals. The stories would be passed down from generation to generation, eventually resulting in the worship of Rimuru alongside Veldora as the divine duo of the forest. Construction began swiftly, with Rimuru guiding the various races. The kobolds handled the stone foundations, the ogres handled the heavy lifting, the rabbit folk wove intricate designs into the woodwork, and the elves, though a little chaotic, managed to add some charm to the place with their colorful decorations. Veldora, meanwhile, alternated between barking orders and hovering above the scene, pretending he was in charge, though everyone knew Rimuru was really leading the effort. Weeks passed, and soon a grand, sprawling home took shape. It was a fusion of practicality and grandeur, with massive stone walls, towering pillars. Rimuru, of course, ensured that the place was cozy, adding bedrooms, libraries, and even a kitchen, though Veldora insisted he didn't need one. Veldora stood before the completed palace, grinning. This is amazing. We've got our place, and I didn't even have to lift a claw. Rimuru chuckled, shaking his head. It's a miracle it turned out this well with you lounging around the whole time. And so, the two powerful beings finally had a home in the forest, but life in the Great Jura forest was far from dull. With their new base, Rimuru and Veldora began to explore the forest like never before. One day, they ventured deep into the forest, to areas Veldora had never bothered exploring. There were enchanted groves where the trees whispered secrets, and rivers that shimmered with magic. One particular adventure involved diving deep into the river, which led to the discovery of an underwater kingdom. Then, there was the time they discovered a hidden tribe of beastmen living in a secret valley. When they got there, they found out that the tribe had been under attack by powerful monsters. Veldora, being Veldora, immediately went after the monsters to, in his words, test their might. Rimuru sat back and watched as Veldora decimated the monsters easily without even using magic, just pure physical strength. Rimuru was wondering what Veldora was expecting from such monsters, when he's a true dragon with immense power. There was no way the monsters ever stood a chance. But the moments that shook the forest were when Rimuru and Veldora sparred. It was catastrophic. Veldora never knew when to hold back, so there were times when the forest was utterly decimated. Rimuru decided that he and Veldora would spar in his stomach, to avoid the Jura forest from being the Jura desert. As the years passed, the legend of Veldora and Rimuru spread throughout the forest. The intelligent races not only worshipped them but took comfort in knowing their gods were more than just powerful figures, they were protectors, adventurers, and friends. And so, the tales of their wild escapades and the magnificent palace they had built continued to grow, told around campfires and whispered among the trees. News began to spread that Veldora had a friend and accomplice with terrifying power. This made the Jura forest even more dangerous for those who wished to exploit its resources. Dot, 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 dot. Dot, 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 dot. In the vast expanse of hell, where death and chaos reigned supreme, there stood a magnificent castle. Its imposing structure, adorned with blackened obsidian and infernal fire, stood as a testament to the demon who ruled it. This was the abode of Rimuru, a primordial demon whose power and authority in the infernal realm was unmatched. He had long returned to this world, leaving behind the boisterous life he shared with Veldora, a dragon whose wild energy often left Rimuru longing for peace and quiet. Here in his realm, he could bask in quiet power, accompanied by those who served him loyally. In his grand throne room, Rimuru sat comfortably, sipping tea from a delicate cup as Valkyrie, the blue primordial, gracefully served him. Her movements were precise and elegant, a reflection of her loyalty and reverence for her master. Behind Rimuru stood two of his most powerful lieutenants, Amon and Baphomet, ever watchful, their presence exuding the weight of authority and might. During Rimuru's absence, while he was exploring the chaos dimension, his subordinates materialized in the physical world through summons. Valkyrie made use of the gates of hell to travel to the physical world. They learned all they could in the world in order to be of use to Rimuru. While the lessers in Rimuru's army were terrorizing the world, trying to summon Rimuru from where he had gone to, Valkyrie and Rimuru's close aides traveled the world, learning how to do various chores such as cooking and cleaning, and learned various arts such as music and dancing, all to keep their lord and master entertained. It was during this serene moment that Noir, the primordial black, appeared before them. Amon and Baphomet stood on guard, ready to intercept. They were pissed. The fact that Noir made it this far into their castle without anyone of Rimuru's subordinates noticing and raising an alarm showed that the demons were slacking off. Noir's presence was as commanding as ever, his aura dark and imposing. He greeted Rimuru with his usual confidence, his red eyes gleaming with a mischievous light. Rimuru, ever calm and composed, he noticed something different about Noir. His aura was more potent, his power seemed deeper, more refined than before. It wasn't long before Argent addressed the matter directly. "You've changed," Rimuru said, his voice as smooth as the tea he drank. "Your power, it has increased." Noir smirked, clearly pleased that Rimuru had noticed. "I've evolved," Noir announced, his voice tinged with pride. "I've become a demon peer." He began to boast about his latest achievement. This revelation shocked everyone present, except Rimuru, whose calm demeanor never faltered. Valkyrie's usually composed expression shifted into one of surprise, and even Amon and Baphomet exchanged glances, their stoic faces betraying a flicker of astonishment. "How?" Valkyrie asked, her tone laced with disbelief. "You weren't named by anyone." "It's unheard of." Noir's grin widened. "It's possible," he said confidently. "If a demon amasses their maximum capacity of power and lives for more than 2,000 years, they can evolve beyond the archdemon level. I did it on my own, without a name. This information struck like a lightning bolt through the room. Even for demons as powerful as they were, such an evolution was rare, especially without the aid of being named. But Rimuru was not surprised. He had long known that evolution without a name was possible, but it required exceptional circumstances. After all, similarly, he evolved into a demon peer without a name. Rimuru took another sip of his tea, his eyes never leaving Noir. That is impressive. It's not something ordinary demons could achieve, he clarified, his tone thoughtful. Hell is a realm plagued by constant death and destruction. Demons are always fighting, always dying. It's rare for one to live long enough and grow strong enough to evolve in such a way. A silence fell over the room as Rimuru's words settled in. Noir had done the impossible, something that even many powerful demons couldn't hope to achieve in the harsh environment of hell. But the moment of contemplation was short-lived, as Noir, always eager to test his strength, issued a challenge. Let's see how I measure up to you, Rimuru, Noir said, his eyes gleaming with the thrill of battle. I want to test my power against yours. Guy's boasted about his power ever since he incarnated into the physical world. Strangely, he says you're the only one who has the power to face him despite you only being a demon peer while he is a devil lord. Valkyrie immediately stepped forward, her aura flaring as she prepared to defend her master. I will fight in his stead. You're not worthy of fighting Rimuru-sama, she declared, her voice filled with unwavering loyalty. But Rimuru raised a hand, stopping her. No, he said calmly, his gaze shifting to Noir. You cannot defeat him as he is now. His tone held no malice, only a simple statement of fact. Valkyrie hesitated, then stepped back, her pride shattered by her master's words. She was pissed. She has been a demon peer far longer than Noir, how can he be stronger than her if he just evolved? Rimuru rose from his throne, his movements graceful and deliberate. Very well, Noir, let's see what you've become. The ensuing battle was nothing short of spectacular. Rimuru and Noir clashed, their power shaking the very foundation of hell itself. Rimuru, with his refined elegance and mastery over magic and skills, met Noir's raw strength, precision and battle acumen. Each strike sent shockwaves through the castle, and the air crackled with energy as the two primordial demons clashed. Those who watched, Valkyrie, Amon, Baphomet, were in awe. The power on display was beyond anything they had witnessed before. Noir's strength was indeed astounding, and Rimuru, while always in control, acknowledged the immense growth his fellow primordial had undergone. Kufufufufu, you're holding back quite a lot, Rimuru. It seems I'm no match for you. Noir said. True to what Noir said, Rimuru had been holding back greatly. He only wanted to test how strong Noir had gotten, not win against him. The battle ended, neither demon willing to push further, but both recognizing the other's strength. Noir's grin had only grown wider, satisfied with what he's achieved on his own. This means that all of us have finally evolved past the archdemon level, Noir said with a smirk. The primordials have reached a realm where only a select few can stand against us. Rimuru nodded. Indeed, few will be able to summon us now, unless we choose to be summoned. At that moment, a realization swept over the room. The primordials, once bound by the same rules as other demons, had ascended to a level of power that was nearly untouchable. Both in hell and the physical world, their strength was unmatched, their influence undeniable. Only the true dragon and the primordial angels could match them. Before Noir left, Rimuru had to asked, what made you choose to evolve? Noir could have gone down the same path as Guy, but he chose not to. He purposefully limited himself, that was until now. Kufufufufu, I deemed it worthwhile to evolve after myself after every one of you did. Noir answered before leaving, satisfied with what he had accomplished here. To be continued.